murdered someone. I think he's still before the courts of law, and I'm not so much interested because it's quite irritating. But my important thing here, what I want to highlight is, one of the suspects is calls himself Chamadidi, and the fact that Honorable Chamadidi comes from Rampara, majority of the people think up to now that, especially those who have not gotten the opportunity to tell the difference between the two, still think that it's Honorable Chamadid who is involved in that alleged murder of someone. So he has not sent me to do that, but as a person who knows Honorable Chamadid, I want to tell those who are listening in and viewers that it's not the Honorable Chamadid we know, it's a different person altogether. So I think that's quite clear. But also, Banyaji, I've talked about the issue of consumer protection in this country, and specifically I talked about the telecom companies. But now I want to talk about the issue of telecom companies still, but on the line of withdrawing money. They talked of SIM registration, updating and whatever, and some people have not gone there because they did not did not see the advantages of registering their SIM cards last time, because conmen are using the same lines and they are being activated by telecom companies. But right now what we are talking about is some people cannot withdraw up to 500. You are limited to 100, 200 and all that. It's quite disturbing. People have to send money, school fees here and there. So telecom companies should style up. We use our money, we spend our money, hard-earned money, and so they should really respect us. But finally, Banyaji people are very bitter. In Kanungu, just I think yesterday, a man was killed for stealing a hen. People are very bitter. I'm not condoning that, but what I'm saying about Wakou, be very careful, people. Go and work and get your own money. These things of getting free things here and there are really sad. But also allow me to look into that camera for purposes of emphasis, Banyaji. I usually ignore this, but this time around I have to say it because it has become a normal habit. I don't know what. We have some NRM leaders in this district, in this city, and in the region generally, and some so-called NRM cadres. What they do is use people's names, myself in particular, my name in particular. They make budgets 100, we are going to do this, we are facilitating media activists and whatever. So they go to different offices in Kampala and they get money. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but stop using my name.
I think the problem is having them get the money and
not really, Banyaji.
It doesn't trickle down.
I want to thank my parents. They did not bring me up in that begging culture. No. And I'm not here for handouts and whatever. I do whatever I do just for the sake of, because I'm passionate about it.
Yes.
So what they do, yes, you go and get money for survival here and there, but stop using people's names. If I'm not part of your group, Banyaji, leave it out.
Okay.
The most recent one, they got 100 million shillings. I'm not going to name an office, and they said they were facilitating media activists every Saturday, every weekend actually. So please stop, otherwise you're going to name and shame some of these people.
Welcome Sifa Safi to the big set. Now, it's been a while since we last had a member of parliament here on the big set. I think yesterday when we posted the guest that we are going to have this morning, and the topic of discussion, majority of the feedback that we got is that there is quite a lot that we want to hear Honorable Rita talk about, rather than whether ministers are in parliament or not. People are yearning for you. I don't know whether it's only you or entirely all members of parliament. There is a lot that is happening in the region that they feel you need to talk about. Give us a brief of exactly what is happening in parliament. We see it's been very active. The 11th parliament is literally all over the place with so much going on. We now know we have a minister who was just remanded for stealing not stealing, perhaps misallocation or misappropriation of public good. What is the problem, Honorable Rita?
Thank you very much once again, Mr. Banyaji, and to you, dear listeners. I am very delighted this Saturday that I am here to be able to have a conversation, to be able to share my views, and probably give a glimpse of what is happening, especially in parliament, in communities. And first of all, I would like to send my condolences to those who may have lost their dear ones, to all of you, those I know and those I don't know, those I have managed to be there to say goodbye and those that I haven't, but to know that I stand with you in that pain. It's always a difficult thing to lose a dear one, but there are also joys. There are joys of childbirth, there are joys of marriage, there are joys of getting jobs, there are joys of starting businesses, there are also joys of being here. You had Sifa, she's very happy, and the ambassador, youth ambassador, is also very happy for all the big and the little things that you do just to know you are making a milestone, not only in your life, but in the life of Ugandans, because every effort you put across to better yourself, to make a difference, to earn a coin is much appreciated, because by one makes a bundle. You don't wake up and you're rich. No, you build ladders. I do thank the parents for continuously not giving up. You are all to parent, because if all of us were not parented, and again Shifa was thanking her parents, we are no one without you. And myself as a mother, I have a duty to make sure that the children God blessed me with, and those that even look up to me as a parent, and those I can reach out to, that I do the best that I can to give them hope, to give them a clear way to a good upbringing. But always remember that when we are growing up, we master what we see than what we are told. So sometimes you might wonder, I always tell my children this, but then they do differently. So as parents, we need to check, is it what you say, what you do? Because as children, they really watch. Talking about Easter, I would like to thank all of you, especially Christians at this point, for having gone through the Lent season. I think we are coming to the joy of the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ, which is just tomorrow. So it's a privilege that we are here in good time to wish you a very blessed, happy Easter. Thank you for almsgiving. Thank you for sacrificing. Thank you for all of us trying to emulate the gospel of Jesus, which is summarized in one word, which is love. So you need to reevaluate. I value love, and for me, I think it's like my theme of breathing and moving about.
Right.
When you love, you start with yourself. You can't give what you don't have. So when you extend a gesture of love, it is easier, because we all know how it feels nice to be loved.
Okay.
So if you're a parent, if you are a colleague at work, if you are a taxi driver, if you are a border rider, even if you are a gardener, just think about Jesus came into this world to die for us, so that love could be experienced.
Okay.
And it's very important that that happens to the husband and wives. You know, it's usually very exciting to hear conversations about women must be submissive. But I always want to emphasize that the verse completes to say that husbands love your wives as Jesus loved and died for the church.
Okay, Honorable.
And the last one is, I want to wish our brothers, the Muslim community, who are also fasting Ramadan, that I do wish them the best of that. I couldn't have dived without saying.
Okay, we're going to take a breather. When we come back,
said, yes,
I will remind the listeners the role of a member of parliament, and we exactly see how far you've gone and your counterparts in relation to our topic of discussion. We're stopping for a break. When we come back, we're right into it.
It's tough, it's bold, it's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2.
We are back. Thank you so much for not changing that radio. It's 33 minutes past 9 o'clock on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Crooze FM. Great music, great friends. My name is Wesigye Banyaji. We are very honored this morning to host our area member of parliament, Honorable Rita Kwasa Bwahika, who is the woman member of parliament from Barra City. I have Engineer Edgar Mtundisa, youth representative of the East African community, and Sifa Safi, who is the regular panelist here on the big seat. We're now joined by a very big latecomer, Mr. Bright Muhomuza, who is a member of the National Unity Platform. Our topic of discussion this morning is on service delivery. We have a member of parliament. It's important. I'm very certain that so many of you have questions and issues that you think must be addressed by this member of parliament. Please drop us a line on all our social media handles, 912 Crooze FM on Twitter, 91.2 Crooze FM on Facebook. I've put a question right there on what you think on the state of corruption in the country. We know there is so much appropriation, budgeting happens in parliament. We have MPs that are supposed to do an oversight role on some of these resources where they are allocated. Unfortunately, some of these monies actually ends up being eaten by members of parliament, ministers, and those both in public and civil service. We want the answers. Join the discussion later on in the show on 752-912-912 and 780-910. Honorable Rita, representation, oversight, appropriation. Ugandans, by and large, will tell you Uganda's biggest problem, it could be a governance issue, but certainly is about corruption, accountability, ethics, integrity. We know of committees of parliament that, have a duty to make sure that all the money that is allocated in the different sectors of our economy are used exactly of how they expected to be used. You have a whole member of parliament that is, facilitated to make sure there is accountability. We know of so many scandals and cases of corruption that are not only happening within parliament, but even outside parliament. How far have you gone as members of parliament? First of all, nip in the bud of those that could be guilty of corruption. But in terms of service delivery, where you represent in Mbarara, yesterday I got calls from people when they saw definitely that you are coming this morning. They said, but we have bad roads here. We have no water. We have no electricity. What is she doing? Where is she? We have problems. Our children cannot access good health. What is the matter? And it all ends up with corruption, because we know there are budgets that are made in different sectors to make sure that Ugandans get service delivery. Where is the missing gap, Honorable Rita?
Thank you very much, Mr. Banyaji, and drawing the conversation towards service delivery. And I think to a Ugandan, I don't want to use the word common Ugandan, because Ugandans, majority of us, we are as common as we are to ourselves. And I want to discuss this basing on the basic human needs, because those are the key. They are very key and critical to our well-being. You talk about education, you talk about health, you may talk about food, you may talk about shelter, for starters. When you talk about service delivery, when we are all in bad health, it is a disparate point. As an individual, as human beings, I think very few of us find ourselves that in a lifetime we don't get sick. And there are those who actually get sick more frequently. There are those who may have more terminal conditions. There are those who may have life conditions. So starting with health, it is very important that the services that promote that sector are well in good shape. I always want to say, what is my part as an individual before you could even come to a member of parliament? I've been having discussions in terms of health. To me, in my view, that when you look at a health sector today, we have totally gone curative, and little effort is put on prevention. I'm a social scientist by training. I've added on many other things. That you find that most of the diseases that take us to hospitals can actually be prevented in homes. But many times you find that in terms of how the health sector is run, we have greatly focused on curative. Look at malaria, for instance. Look at diarrhea that affects children. That usually if you go on a line, you're going to find mothers actually, much of that is those ailments. And yet the prevention happens at basic level in a home setting. There used to be a program called, it was CBHC, Community Based Home Care, to emphasize that to live healthy as a human being, what is it you should do? And I'm diving it into, especially in Mbarara City, looking at our fellow hospitals, looking at our health facilities, but also looking at ourselves as a city, niwajirangu izina roga mukamario, where in the next 5-10 years, things will automatically be different. Not only in the way we are set up to live, but also in our lifestyles, and that will also affect our health.
As a leader, what are you, because that information you may have it, but do the Ugandans, do
as
people
a
in Mbarara,
leader, the question you have asked me is giving me a platform actually to tell them that do not wait to get a disease to go to hospital, but utilize your platforms to prevent some of these diseases in a home. You can frequent, I've ever got injections.
But fast forward, Honorable Rita, yes, in a child, a family, a person in Mbarara has got a condition. We now know you're promoting the prevention, correct? But now we are at a stage where someone has actually contracted
the infection or the disease. You can't make a conclusion before you've written an essay.
Okay.
I am telling you why we now have lots of hospitals full with ailments. Most of them can be prevented. I'm giving you an example of malaria. Malaria still kills many people. You know it.
It's the
almost 14
killer.
Yes. But what does malaria, where does it come from? Very simple. Malaria comes from our surroundings in our homes. The bushes, the stagnant water. You must be bitten by an anopheles mosquito to get malaria. I cannot touch you and you get malaria. No. Nojihomu bishaka bikwetorire, nojihomu miza gakwetorire, agota basize kuhereza umuhanda gakagenda. Malaria tekurugomu kugamba ngunagamba niyo nguninka covid nekukwata. Hapana. Hati nichemanyisa ki. Woja kwijambarira burukwezo rwiro mushija omushaha kobujuma otaho bunire kora akire ensira garike kurumenye ncha karokore ki. That is what I'm trying to emphasize. That the role of looking at an individual and your role in some of these diseases is very important. Talk about hypertension, talk about diabetes, talk about cancer. Yes, they will cure you, but the time has come for us to face it and say,
yes,
what is it I can do to prevent?
Yes, the prevention good. And I'm saying
actually,
now,
not just good, excellent.
Yes, but now we are talking about a situation where Ugandan, a person in Mbarara, has to interface with the services of the state. Yes.
Because I don't want to correlate an argument that has no root. I was telling you, please do prevention first before you come to hospital.
Oh, yes.
And when you come to hospital, you are coming for treatment. The second issue is, how timely have you come? You know, most of us, we think doctors are fixers. No, doctors are not fixers. Medicine is a chemical in a body that is supposed to help you react or probably aid you to restore yourself to good health. And you know, some of the things we see as leaders, you may not want to die. I recently lost a man in my village that I have seen growing up. Do you know why he died? He was drinking kombucha. And by the time he got here, his body is all wasted. So what do you want to tell me about that man? That a doctor will give him a drug that is going to revive all his body organs? No. And that is what I am saying. A hospital is a last resort. 80% of the health is in your hands. So do you want to ignore the 8 and go for 20?
Are you exonerating
I'm
public
not
officials
exonerating.
that have a responsibility of running systems that work?
You know, for
because
me,
Ugandans have lived irresponsibly. Are you
the
exonerating
way
them?
I run my life and leadership, I want to give content of a solution before I even start to hammer what has gone wrong. What has gone wrong, especially when it comes to our roles and responsibility. A government, even if I fill that hospital with patients and drugs, are you aware that drugs eventually can kill you? Are you aware?
Even if you rather kill me when they are available than me dying because they are not available.
That is not
wait, I will give you an opportunity. You've come late.
That is not sustainable.
I am going to come to I'm going to give you an opportunity. No. So wait. I am going to give you an opportunity.
Whoever is listening to me, what I am saying, I started with health because you said service delivery. What I'm simply saying, when it comes to health matters, start from where you are before you get to a doctor, because getting to a doctor is usually the last stage of looking for a solution. In most of the ailments we encounter day to day, 80%. Let me give you another example. I'm a woman.
Quickly, Honorable.
I'm a woman susceptible to infections, what you call UTIs, and these we pick them from public spaces. To give an example.
Yes.
You talk about candidiasis, you talk about UTIs in places which are filthy, which are not cleaned. You go there to ease yourself. An hour from then, you are waiting, looking for a doctor.
Okay, thank you, Honorable. I'm going to get back to you.
So, if I go to a gynecologist, even if I visit the gynecologist 7 times in a month, it will not give me a solution.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me hear from a young person here. Edgar, you just heard the Honorable. She tackled it from that angle of health. Ugandans have conditions that they can prevent, but they're looking out for a time when they have to interface with perhaps a public doctor to be able to cure their condition. Me, the angle I want to look at this argument is, because we have her here, she must be able to answer the tough questions. Even when Ugandans know those, there are going to be situations where you have to, use public resources in hospitals, in schools. We now know Karamoja, they were given an allocation that was misappropriated. Do you think the problem is per se Ugandans that are not taking responsibility, or it's a leadership crisis kind of?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Ayaji. So I think, honestly, the problem is two-way. But also, I think it's largely on the leadership. Because, for instance, our healthcare system, I think that also the Honorable mentioned, is one of the best in the world. Because the idea is that any healthcare system in the world can be overwhelmed by the patients. So this system of LC1, the health center 1, then 2, 3, 4. The idea behind it is that if you have cough, you don't run to the referral hospital. That you utilize those ones that are available for such small issues. But we still have a problem where when someone just gets flu, they go direct to the referral hospital of Barara. And what happens there then is that even people who have so much more urgent conditions get to compete with you, and then the doctors are overwhelmed by very small little issues that could have been sorted by those small other health centers that we do have in our system. So there is a mismatch there on how we utilize this system. So that's very important. Now, beyond that, I think then is that it's also a responsibility of the leadership to start with, to inform people of all such stages that people know and then they utilize. Because we've also had instances where in some hospitals you're complaining that we don't have the drugs, are not enough. Yet, I remember there was a year, there was a year when some drugs were actually banned. Yet people somewhere are dying and they don't have them. And that's the problem. Because when the government distributes these drugs to health center 1, 2, 3, and no one goes to 1, 2, 3, you all come to referral. So you overwhelm the ones that referral.
But there must be something done on the system to make sure that there is good movement of drugs from whichever center to the other where it is needed. This is government.
Exactly, yes.
So it is not that an health center 1 is working separate from an health center 4, even a referral. This is all government.
Yes. Yeah, so like I said, so there's that gap that is missing. People don't even know about it. But now beyond that, like I said, I think it's a problem of leadership, a responsibility of theirs to have such information, people to know where they're tapping from. But then secondly, I think there's also an issue of even the quality of drugs we have. So I think there's a real big problem out there, because remember, even in terms of policy, that time when we were looking at this anti-homosexuality bill, there was a debate at some time, actually a statement, I think, from one of the US officials who mentioned on how the Uganda is going to face a threat, and then that they could withdraw the aid, the ARVs, for instance, the aid they give to us in terms of ARVs. And then the question in my mind was, why do you have all this such healthcare system you develop? You have our own pharmaceutical industries here in Uganda, and then you don't have the capacity yet to be able to manufacture our own, or actually make it that much in big quantities, so that you sustain yourself from that much pressure from the foreigners. So I think there's a really big leadership problem, and that problem leads us to actually, it also hinders us in terms of policy and other measures, because all these things are really...
Let me bring in the man. I don't know what the banning is about.
Where is the banning?
Yes, Bright Momuza, on the matter of service delivery, is it a leadership gap? We have members of parliament, that have to do oversight, appropriation, and Ugandans on the other side, and the executive or government that is supposed to provide these resources. When Ugandans are complaining about this is not being done right, when there are members of parliament that have to represent them, where is the problem?
First of all, Mr. Banyaji, I bring greetings to you and to the listener from His Excellency Robert Chagulanyi and the entire NUP fraternity. And I also want to thank the people from Mbarara for the support, they showed us when we were here as Kunga. Kunga, Mbarara Kunga, Ankole Kunga. We are here with the Secretary for Mobilization, Mr. Honorable Nyans Fred, Chairman Nyans, and Leus Rubongoya, the Secretary General for NUP. Unfortunately, when they went to Chenjojo to launch the Kunga group in Chenjojo, they were beaten to pulp. Okay. They were beaten, they were harassed, they were arrested, and as I speak now, Mr. Banyaji, even some of our comrades are still in custody in Chenjojo.
Okay,
so we condemn
fast
that
forward.
Impunity.
Yes.
Because we are in a multi-party dispensation. We are allowed by the law to do mobilization. I don't know why these goons want
to the matter now.
Yes, to the matter. To the matter, I want to tell you that the health issue in Uganda, the issue of service delivery, not only health.
Yes.
The issue of service delivery in Uganda is a question of governance. Nobody should beat around the bush, because when Honorable Rita comes here and starts blaming the public, that it is because of Mr. Madam, you told very many lies. Madam, you told very many lies, and I gave you an opportunity to tell lies.
When you look at
relax.
I'm always saying
yes
that whether she accepts it or not, it was not right for
that is a better
yes.
You cannot say
start blaming the general public.
No, I didn't blame. I educated.
Are concerned. My argument is,
Mr.
my argument is
my participation on radio, and which I continue to emphasize, I don't want to be a propagandist. And when I come to radio, I want to tell as somebody what is you can do to make your life different.
But
it does not help me.
You also have to take the responsibility to answer the tough question.
No, I answer the tough question.
Among the people,
when it comes,
no, wait, I've said wait.
Mr. Banyaji.
But you can walk out if at all you don't want to take order. No, if at all you think you cannot, no. But I call the shots here. If at all you cannot allow my rule,
Mr.
then you can quickly.
Bright is on.
No, wait.
It's not your father's project.
That is true.
I'm always going to that.
I am going to give you an opportunity. If she has clarification.
Yes.
haven't talked about.
Mr. Bright, we have got to debate with respect.
I'm going to give you an opportunity, Bright.
what I was going to say.
Because it's presented.
Wait.
Mr. Banyaji.
Yes.
It's fortunate that I want to have a structured show to your guidance and respect.
Yes.
What I started with was to highlight the roles of an individual in a health service delivery.
And please allow Honorable Rita to rebut that argument.
And you did not give me opportunity to complete what I was saying. So for Bright to come here and allege that I was blaming the public is what I cannot concur with.
Okay, it's been put on record.
I explained myself to the extent of the population to understand their responsibility in a health system, and that's what I stopped.
Okay,
I did not get a chance to talk about the part of government.
I'm going to give
so Bright who just came in to come and assert that I am blaming the public is what I cannot take.
Okay. Now this is what we are going to do. Honorable Rita is going to know.
To give a presentation. Kindly allow me to give my presentation.
Okay.
Give her enough time.
All right.
Listen to her.
But you not alleging
But don't. Okay. Let us not be diverse.
So I am honest. We are lucky this morning that we are in this studio with a member of parliament.
Yes.
You know, we are not with a regular person. We are not with a common.
We are not with you are not. You're not.
We are a high-ranking officer of government. Madam Rita in the studio with me.
Yes.
Because I want to thank you. Other members of parliament are invited here. They don't even come.
I think that one is put on record.
So I have no personal issue with you.
Yes.
When I say it is a governance issue, I am not directing it to you.
I think we are fun now.
So you feel at home.
Yes, feel at home, Honorable.
Yes, but my issue is, I want her to listen to my point of view, because I may not be right, but this is my opinion.
Please go right ahead.
I am only saying that the issue of service delivery in Uganda is entirely an issue to do with governance. Why? In Mbarara State, for example, where she represents, she can bear me a witness that there are over 22 villages that don't have access to clean and safe water. You are saying that the most diseases are because of lifestyle. But now a person must be clean in order for him not to get these other non-communicable diseases.
Yes.
The ones she mentioned. But a person shares the same water with animals. Some of them, even those that have access to clean water, have no money to buy because the water is sold in this town. We are saying some people in town here depend on sewage. If we worked after the program, we can walk to Biafra, areas of Biafra, Chizungu down there, and find a person fetching water in a sewage line, in a malaria channel. People are fetching water to take home and use for cooking and drinking. Others have direct cups, they get water and drink directly from a sewage line. I can show you, I can go there, go with her from here, I show you these things. So we are saying that it is entirely, she's mentioned about hypertension. Hypertension, I have cut out a research, and I am telling you that she now knows. She now knows.
You haven't given me a copy of your research.
She now knows that most of these issues that cause hypertension are largely to do with economics. People have no access, they cannot pay fees for their kids. They have loans which they are unable to service, including members of parliament. She is a witness. I know she knows that. She knows that if your mother fails, if your relative falls sick, you have either to tell her to make a will or to go to hospital and die from there so that she has a decent burial. But people have no capacity, no financial ability to meet their day-to-day small obligations.
Yes.
So for me,
conclusively,
I am saying that unless this government of NRM, because a priority, they are the ones who plan for us. They are putting priorities to war mongering. They are sending 5,000 troops to Congo when there is no crisis. our borders are secure. Our borders are secure. And as I speak now, we are still paying some money for the war crimes we committed in Congo. You know that the budget of Uganda is now stuck because of that debt payment. You know that as I speak now, we are paying 600 billions we are giving 600 billions to Atiaka Sugar. Atiaka Sugar, we have been giving them money for the last 6 years. They have never produced even a single bag of sugar. Yet we have, you saw that time you saw police. I saw police receiving over 600 trucks to deal with rioters, to deal with demonstrators, to deal with some of us. Yet many health centers don't have ambulances. So it's all about governance. It's all about priority. Because what matters for them is to protect themselves, to entrench themselves, to make sure that they retain power. It's not all about what the services they give to Uganda.
Okay, thank you. Let me get Sifa. Yes. Yes.
I want to say
yes
that we have lost hope in our leaders, and these members of parliament, sometimes I sympathize with them. Some of them, it is not true that all of them don't perform. Some of them are performers. Some of them are good speakers. They go to parliament, we see them on TV talking. But the problem is how to implement what they have talked in parliament.
Okay, Sifa.
So the executive wing of government,
yes,
headed by His Excellency the President, is really intentionally making sure that Ugandans don't get access to basic fundamental services.
Okay, let me get to Sifa. Sifa, we have a member of parliament here, and like Bright has quoted, it's not as usual. It's important that we raise things that are important to us and concern us, and directly to her, because she must answer some of these hard questions on the matter of service delivery. Where you sit, Honorable Rita has given us background of the preventative measures that Ugandans can take to prevent some of these conditions. Bright came in and said it's a governance issue, because even when they want to drink clean water that can prevent a condition, they literally have no access to it. Where does the buck stop? On one side you have leaders who are calling on Ugandans to live responsibly, and the Ugandans are saying, wait a minute, before you tell us to live responsibly, we cannot even afford the bare minimum. Where does the buck stop?
Thank you, Banyaji. Uganda's healthcare system is quite challenging.
Not only health, I don't want us to focus on health.
But that's what I want to start with.
Large.
That's what I want to start with.
Yes.
Because I'm so much concerned. And specifically this time round, I want to first applaud government and the health service providers, specifically for the issue of child and maternal mortality rate. At least it has been reduced to a certain percentage. Well, it's still on and every life matters, but for me that is quite something that we should appreciate. However, Banyaji, I want to concur with Honorable Rita on the issue of preventive measures. Actually, I don't know why. Maybe sometimes we think it's about advisors and technocrats. But if people are sensitized more about preventive measures, you know, it would be very much important. For example, I want to talk about hand washing. Just that bit, just that small thing can cut chances of getting diseases to a very big percentage. I want to tell you, and we all know that during COVID, now the pandemic, people are being told to wash hands for COVID, but through that process, even other diseases were reduced, you know, just because of washing hands. And that is something small that we can even implement without, you know, having big budgets and whatever. So I don't know why some of our leaders are so much, you know, maybe they're not serious or whatever, or maybe because for them they can afford to go to different hospitals, you know, whenever they get problems challenging their health and all that. But at least I want to tell you, Banyaji, that these people, especially the members of parliament, and that's why I started by thanking Honorable Rita Bwaika, because I've been here with her severally, and not everyone can do that, like Mr. Bright was saying. If they would be using these chances of airtime on different media houses to sensitize people and tell them that washing hands is important, for example, we would be having budgets that are enough in these hospitals. But let's talk about the issue of drug supply, for example. Just last month, I think, some month ago, all health facilities in this country almost did not have drugs, and they were saying there was a problem with the distribution, and they were talking about budgets and all that. So for me, it's quite challenging. But there is this thing that I want Honorable Rita Bwaika to comment about when she gets a chance. Majority of Ugandans are saying we have a very big parliament. leave alone being big, but the budget of course goes has to be synonymous with the number of members of parliament.
The last time we checked it was about 600 billion.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. So people are saying we spend a lot on these
And
people.
that is
Parliament is very big, and some people even go ahead to give specific things like they tell you that toilet paper alone, if I may give that example in parliament, you use this and that. Then you go, people are also quoting the number of, for example, drinks and whatever. So they give different things, and they're saying if we are reducing this budget of parliament, wouldn't we use that money to do something for service delivery, not necessarily health, but education and other things. But when you look at majority of Ugandans, we are saying we don't want to call them common people. We don't want to call ourselves common, but we are ordinary. We spend a lot on, for example, health bills, that is, then education, and some people are giving an example of accommodation, because Manyaja want to tell you that when you go to these streets and towns and whatever, majority of the people will tell you that we would have wanted to live in far much better places, but we cannot afford, so it's quite expensive. And at one point I was thinking, why can't we have more of these housing facilities like national housing and whatever?
But would national housing
But
is saving 199 million shillings and 299 million shillings. How does that not?
It doesn't matter how much they spend, but you go to this whatever apartments, whatever. How many Ugandans are there? Because when you go there, I've been there myself. Majority of them are people from outside Uganda, because those are the people that can, afford to pay the rent. Somalis, South Sudanese, and whatever. So we are saying it did not meet the purpose for which it was started. And I'm saying, why can't we have more of such, so that accommodation in this, for example, this city becomes affordable for Ugandans? Because you get a person from Rukunju or wherever, he gets a job here in Mbara, but cannot afford to pay 400 or 500 per month, because she gets literally more little than that. So for me, what I'm saying, it is all about leadership, it is about policies and planning, and more so it is about monitoring and supervision. Because when you go to a hospital, if a hospital like Mbara here, they will tell you that a mother has lost her life, or almost lost her life, because the doctor could not touch her since he did not have gloves. And I'm wondering, mere gloves, when I myself have offered gloves in several facilities and to individuals. Someone tells you my wife is pregnant, I did not have enough money to pay when she was, and you offer something to buy gloves and mama kit and all that. So we are saying, is it between the leaders or management of the hospitals? Is it because of the budgets? Some of these small things cannot be, afforded, bought and given to some people who cannot afford. What is it? Okay. So we are saying, Banyaji, there is a gap between the leaders and the people they are leading. Communication lacks, because if people are aware that do not take gloves, you don't have to buy this caviar and whatever, people would be aware.
Okay, let's
so some people are ignorant about what they are supposed to get as their rights. And
when we're stopping for a break. When we come back on Rita, I'll be able to answer some of the queries. Good morning.
It's tough. It's bold. It's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2.
Past 10 o'clock on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Crooze FM. Great music, great friends. My name is Wesi Gebanyaji. Good morning. It's a good edition of the Big Set. We are online and on air. Catch us on www.cruisefm.com/stream and on Crooze TV, a courtesy of Creative Digital Media. The visuals are there. You can be able to see Honorable Rita here, the woman member of Parliament, Mbara City, Engineer Edgar Mtundisa, Bright Muhumusa, and Sifa Safi. We are discussing service delivery. We shall just oppose it with corruption without doubt, because it's the frustration. It's the biggest hindrance of service delivery. Honorable Rita, when we're in a break, away from what they were able to raise, there is a lot of lapses in this city where a project stalls and takes ages to get complete, and with the delay it causes the frustration, and sometimes it hinders the environment of doing business. We know that the roads are dilapidated and impassable, and Banyambara are raising some of these issues, and knowing that you're here, they want you to answer some of the queries as far as your role of oversight is concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Baneji. First of all, I want to say that when you talk about the roles of government, the three arms do different roles. But unfortunately, sometimes it has grown to a point that when people see a member of parliament, they will think the judiciary has arrived. They are going to think the executive has arrived. They are going to think the mayor has arrived, the doctor has arrived, which I think we need to start analyzing critically when we are raising some of these issues. It doesn't matter. What matters is that a Ugandan is facing a challenge and it needs to be addressed. Concluding on the question of health that personally I raised, I think it is very unfair for any Ugandan to say that the health sector is in shambles. If it were, in COVID, Uganda would have had the highest numbers of death in the whole world, or even in Africa. But you know it for a fact that Uganda posted the best approaches, the best success in handling COVID crisis, which was new, which had lots of challenges, where we actually managed to have, and I...
Let me...
No, you can
Mr.
write.
Anyaji,
You can
I
write.
listened to Bright so very well, patiently,
Yes.
and I demand
You were given an opportunity
that
No,
you
please.
Secondly, Mr. Baneji, I think for a better debate,
You should wait and write.
you should be you should be
creating a
able
lot of unnecessary disruption.
to allocate.
I'm going to give you time.
Yes, you should.
No,
be able
wait,
to
write it.
allocate, yeah. So Uganda actually leads in many fronts in the health sector, not only the health, even education. But when Ugandans want to draw themselves to a point of frustration as if there is nothing good being done, there I disagree. What is important to say is that work is being done, but there are challenges, because as humans, as dealing with social problems, you cannot address to zero. You can't. You saw the health sector in the US, in the UK, crumbling with the issue of COVID, but we succeeded. Come back to HIV. We have handled HIV. Come back to immunization. The deaths of children, the maternal mortalities arising from immunizable diseases. Personally, I suffered from whooping cough, if I can tell you. But today, you hear no child suffering from whooping cough. And all these have been contained. You have routine immunizations. You have all these programs going on. But what we need to understand is that there are challenges. For instance, one of the things I think we frequently face is issues to do with drug stockouts, issues to do with corruption, which happens at every level, where you find patients, probably maybe a doctor or maybe a gate man is asking for something to be able to...
I want you to elevate it away from the Askari to Parliament, where it is all now happening.
For me, since I went to Parliament, I've not had any corruption scandal in the Parliament of Uganda. I have not.
Honorable Mary Goreti Chitutu is a member of Parliament for Manafo.
Chitutu, in her role as an executive member, as a minister, she's faulted. She is in court, and I don't think I am fit to be a lawyer to start talking about a case in court and how she will be judged. That's why she was handed over to court for investigation. First record, she used her powers wrongly. So I don't think you want to say.
But perhaps a person in Bara wants to hear your opinion.
For me, my opinion is very clear.
Could be behind bars.
For instance, you know it very well. Mbara Secondary benefited from the iron sheets I got from the Prime Minister's office. Mbara Mixed Primary did. But the process is very clear. You work with your cow. I worked with the cow's office to make requests, to do the disaster assessment. I didn't even touch and receive the iron sheets. They were directly brought to the cow's office and distributed. So I think Chitutu went out of her way to give iron sheets to her colleagues without following any due process. And yet for us ordinary members of parliament being subjected to that process, it is very clear every day in the commencement of parliament, members are crying. My school iron sheet were washed away or blown by the wind. A health fertility, whether it is a church, and you are supposed to serve those disasters, but to allocate yourselves over 2,000 iron sheets that are uncounted for, I think you don't even need to open an envelope. That is wrong. That is not in parliament. That happened with the executive. I thought when you talk about parliament, refer me to a committee. I will agree.
But we know
that this committee was entangled in a scandal.
We know of accountability committees that informally, because we know, I can bring you first I do not know up to speed of Jennifer Mturachi, who was investigated, implicated by a committee of parliament. A report was made. Before we know it, she's having photo moments with the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament. Where did that end?
Possibly you can say that there are areas where parliament has not expedited. You cannot even today say that the top committee, the report was totally abandoned. You do not know, because priority is given according to order of precedence in parliament. Right now, if it's a budgeting process, priority is going to go to issues that deal with the budget process, so that we move that away and then other issues can be brought back.
We know now.
I don't think I have evidence to say that the speaker will never bring that report to the floor of parliament.
We have savers.
Just debating in our session.
We have savers in this city. In the NSSF, one of our very own, Honorable Mwinempaka, made a report. It was made in that parliament.
Exactly.
Where did it end?
That is exactly.
Because if at all we think these are important issues for Ugandans, why not fast track?
Mr. Banyeji.
Yes.
For me, I was even amazed when the report for the committee, select committee on SSF was made. I was even following social media to even see some of the Ugandans themselves claiming that the ministers are being witch hunted. Was there not such a voice? Parliament comes out with a report telling you this is what is wrong, and then you turn your guns to parliament. So what is what? Parliament's role is very clear. And when I'm seated here as a member of the parliament. I'm not seated here as a member of an executive to answer for the president. No, there I will be going beyond my corridors. I am a member of parliament who's charged with legislation, oversight, representation and appropriation. So therefore I cannot be in a seat to answer for the executive. I am not a minister.
Okay.
So ask me, if the committee debated the report, didn't you see the recommendations? Very clear. I am a saver. I still have my money in SSF as an individual, because previously I worked for private sector. So equally, and I'm not alone, there are very many other Ugandans who have money. So the governance system is complete if parliament is doing its work, the executive is doing its work, and where the judiciary needs to come in.
Okay.
So if that cycle is not complete, then me as a member of parliament, I'm not accountable to say that because we managed to unearth the rot that was in NSSF, therefore we didn't do it.
Thank you, Honorable. Let me bring in the panel. Edgar, it looks like a hot ball. Everyone catches it and drops it to the other. Looks like no one wants to take accountability for some of the wrongs that are happening in this country as far as service delivery is concerned. Now, as a young person where you sit and you see leaders, allocate themselves resources that are meant to be for public good, an MP saying, you see, all that you're asking me has nothing to do with my responsibilities. In fact, Parliament is now running all media, that the roles of Parliament are appropriation, representation, oversight.
We need actually accountability is enforced by all angles, including the general public. I am here for the voice of the Mbarara people. Okay. So if in Parliament a voice is raised to say, hey, NSSF money has gone wrong, please back us up so that we can have the executive to act and put the minister to question to answer or even resign like we recommended.
Okay. Edgar.
Yes, thanks so much, Mr. Abanaji. So for me, I think the issue with service delivery comes back to one question of corruption, which has been so chronic and really so much deep-rooted that it's no longer an issue of you can stop it from here, you can just cut off one member, because it's happening so much everywhere. And start with just the generic form, the idea that, we see the iron sheets moving and then someone takes them. But you also look at the kind of responses we get, especially from minister. You saw what Honorable Matia Kasaija was mentioning as his defense on how just the iron sheets found themselves at his place, and you saw the memes on social media, people trying to draw those iron sheets moving themselves. And it's really funny. So I think what is really happening, honestly speaking, I think, is that people are starting to rethink the kind of representation they have, the quality of it. And of course, like we said, it cannot be general that all MPs are bad. But those ones that get stand out in such sagas, we start to somehow question the quality. I've had very many colleagues, for instance, who are still young but who think they could perhaps do better than Honorable Matia Kasaija. Of course, that may not be true technically, or perhaps it may be, but the kind of responses they give, the kind of sagas that happen, around them, that there's some corruption, which would be corruption, but then it needs some sort of investigation and some sort of technicalities. But this one is just outright. It's on the table there, like anyone, like there's even no thought put to it. It's just there. It's really so much nagging. If it were a little more technical, perhaps we would say, well, maybe systematic. Like you see in some countries where someone just resigns because he was able to use a personal email to perhaps talk about Mabati or perhaps request. Now that would say, it's an issue of personal emails. That would say, it's corruption, it's a bad deed, but at least it's reasonable. But this one that is just outright, more like just normal chicken sort of theft, it's really sad. And it has so much bad sort of reputation on the kind of leadership we have as a whole.
Do you think as members of parliament who are given money to do investigations on some of these matters on different accountability committees, we have a whole Auditor General's office, we have a whole IGG. I don't know how many institutions that are charged with corruption in fighting corruption in this country.
Yes. Now, on that one, I'm going to come to that. Like I was saying, so now corruption here has now become like a habit. And now, when it becomes a habit, if you read some book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, he mentions clearly that when something for it to become a habit, it has about 3 influences. It's influenced by the close, by the many, then by the powerful. So the fact that in this system, not there alone, even when these people go from here as our MPs and all that, but when you're in parliament, another fact is that the closest to you are corrupt, it's most likely also going to be. If it's not that, if the many are in that circle, you also will be. But if not that, if the powerful are, now you are not in a general, but now you see, you've just been here for how many years? Attorney General is new. But now the people you're trying to deal with are the Matia Kasaijas and all that. They've been in the system and they're more powerful perhaps than you, but say in terms of money and all that. It's more like a habit that you will think of them better than you. They even give you guidance, or they have so much more power. So the whole point is that this is not just more of an issue. They are so much trapped into that corruption has become that much chronic and a habit. And even if you remove that, or if you remove an office that you think is wrong and you put in another one, it's so highly likely that they'll also follow the same track.
Okay. Because
of that's how chronic it has become.
Bright Muhammad, sir, you are meant to offer alternative policy.
Which we are doing.
I don't, because we know some of you are not as clean. It is easy to point fingers at Honorable Rita on how she has failed on representation, on oversight of some of the projects within Mbara City, but you stood in that race for Member of Parliament. We don't know how different you would be, knowing that you come from a society that is highly corrupt.
But now you see, Mr. Onyaji, I know for you want to already divert me, because the issue on the table right now, we are talking about the quality of the services that we get as Ugandans. Some of the people say that we have been given ABCD. The government has given us ABCD. But you remember, some of these things we're talking about are our fundamental freedoms we are entitled to enjoy. They are inherent. They are God-given. We are supposed to enjoy these rights by fact that we are alive. There are things that we must enjoy, without which life becomes hard. And it's therefore, it is not it is not a token. It is not out of goodwill from government. You know that people, you should thank government because the government has done ABC, especially on matters to do with health, education, and other fundamental human rights. These are things which are internationally recognized as issues, as you know,
as deserving to a human being.
Yes, we are not asking too much. We are not saying that we need we need jobs for every Ugandan, for example, for all Ugandans. No, we are not. We are only saying, can we have the basics, the minimum, and we are telling this to who? We are telling this to our representatives.
And she has just said, in her judgment, Ugandans already have
in this
the
case,
basics.
In this case,
Yes.
the members of parliament, because one of their roles is representation. We are there, we only hear that they are bringing for us parish development model. Now, representation means you take my view to the table so that that view is discussed, and I am given the response that deserves me. But now there they sit from Kapeka, they come up with their thing, and they bring it to us and say, we are bringing for you this, which is not an initiative of the community. We are saying that we have been poorly represented, not only at the parliamentary level, but also at the local government level. By the way, sometimes we entirely blame members of parliament for poor service delivery. But local governments have a lot to do with this responsibility also. Because some of the services, we are supposed to get them via district, via municipal authorities. Unfortunately, the kind of leaders we vote ourselves, some of these councillors, I can tell you, some of these councillors don't know how even to write their names. They didn't even finish P7. They only, and they bring a town clerk to deal with these councillors, a town clerk who has master's degree in accounting. So they bring him here and they say the councillors are bosses. You are bosses of what?
Of a master's holder.
Of a master's holder. He comes, presents a document, and say the only thing is that page number 1 pass, page number 2 pass. You cannot even ask the councillors what they have passed.
There is a matter that you've raised.
I am only saying
yes,
that believe me not, we still have a leadership challenge in Uganda. We are influenced by State House.
Okay.
State House, as I conclude, State House of Uganda, led by His Excellency the President of Uganda, takes almost 90% of our national budget. Instead of directing money,
well, if it was taking 90% of our budget, I think we would all not be here.
I am always saying that the money, the small services you see, first of all, that money comes from well wishers. It is either donations, like they used to make the programs, or the loan, the World Bank loans.
Okay.
So for me, I know that for all the taxes we collect as Ugandans, that money goes to President Museveni, his relatives, because when you look at President Museveni, he's the president of Uganda. His wife is the minister for education, and you know what is happening in the education sector. Everybody's crying. His brother is a Kapeka general, and it's where PDM originated from. It is where.
Okay, thank you. We've gotten it.
So the issue is they are in charge of our funds. We are saying, help us, come join hands with us so that we can dislodge these thieves.
Okay, thank you. Let me. You've raised the matter of PDM. How far will Mbarara City on PDM? It is the heartbeat of the NRM manifesto this 5 years. Are the people receiving these resources, Honorable Rita?
First of all, I would like to let the people listening to me that an MRI machine came to Mbarara Hospital, which is an advanced machine used in diagnosis and providing solutions when people are sick. A CT scan came to this hospital, that those who were trekking to Kampala, at least now it can be accessed here it can as well serve the region and beyond. Before I come to my question, I also want to speak something about that Sifa asked me to do with the size of Parliament. I think the Parliament, from the time that I started to understand politics, so from the constitution making process, was not this size. And I think it got here because of the different demands and aspirations that Ugandans have, where they feel solutions come from. Because I have
the narrative was
been part of this country,
have the services trickle down to the common man.
Yes,
and that's why we have the number of Parliament.
Through decentralization.
Let's stop for a break. When we come back, Sifa and Honorable will be concluding on that.
It's tough, it's bold, it's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2. Big Seat on 91.2 Crooze FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
We are back. It's 33 minutes past 10 o'clock on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Crooze FM. Great music, great friends. The Big City Zone. My name is Westige Banyaji. I want to appreciate every person that is listening in this morning. We are definitely very delighted that we have an area member of parliament with us this morning. Honorable Richard Kwasa Wahika is here with us. Please drop us the questions on our social media handles on what you think is the problem with service delivery. Corruption is the menace that is eating up all this good that we can have. And later on the show, I will have you have an opportunity to call in on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. Wherever you are, if you have a challenge that you think the area member of parliament must either answer or take to the floor of parliament, it's your opportunity. Call in right now on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. I will be able to read some of the messages that you've sent on our social media handles. 912 Crooze FM on Twitter and 91.2 Crooze FM on Facebook, so that they can be able to be answered. The Big Set.
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Morning to you.
Yes, what's your name and where are you calling us from?
This is Benjamin from Ngarama.
Yes, Benjamin in Ngarama.
Hey, I can see that member of parliament tries to...
Kosori nyankore sebo.
Nagezeho kudodinga evuzo abokuba norere kibiro mu parliament. Minister kuiba mabati bona noreba that executive bakirumu konkano yagezeho kugira ngo barga muramwa tubakwenda kukigambaho nibebuzabuza, so ningira ngo that cabinet president ayine kugeti yakoraho kugira ngo abantu bakabajya bo kuba baramu bongera kugira ngo dubiye mu wese
yebare mnonga on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. Those are the two numbers to call so that you can be able to have the chance of some of your issues being answered here. The Big Set. Yes, caller. You're speaking very low. Speak a little bit louder.
Good Good morning.
Good morning to you. What's your name?
This is Hope from South Sudan.
Unfortunately, I'm going to let you go because I can't hear you clearly. The big set.
Yes, Ranyaji. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's take this.
What's your name? What's your name?
My name is Bernard from Rampara.
Yes, Bernard and Rampara.
Let's take this issue at the level of the family. Assume your son steals from a neighbor and he has been chased up to your home. Will you sit down and look at him being tailed? I think these people, they are trying to dodge all questions from the parliament, because the person who stole the iron sheet is one of them. Thank you.
It looks like the biggest concern are the iron sheets. And
But what is fascinating,
Yes.
oba kiri kunshobera ni kimu ninka ngotabe hato utabiteka kongashanga ibyahira abanyishenjero nito twarugireyo tukagambira ihanga ngo abantu bakiba amabati.
That's not true. That's not true.
Reka kugambire aho kuba
For that, on that,
no.
let us agree that it was a state house and
No.
of state
Let me tell
It was
you.
not from
When the caucus, when the members of parliament from Karamoja were looking for answers even before recess, that is how it started. Honorable Nakut Faith raising a question on the floor from what the president had pledged to happen in Karamoja, that was not happening. That is how it started.
but Honorable Rita,
You first wait.
how simplistic are these members of
When we
parliament?
went for recess, that is how the anti-corruption now started saying actually the iron sheets are here. That is how it happened.
But don't you find it very embarrassing?
It is
that members of, because forget about them being ministers. These are members of parliament first.
Chikumanyisa ngo muzire yazara umwana akaba umushuma ngo muzire nawe yaba umushuma. Hapana ebyo kugira ngo mushomo kwatwara mugongo ajumisabona ngaha no kireba mwenu abira amabati ureba baba kwate hashika baba kwasire tinkumanye kinde kimukwenda.
no problem yetu.
Selective application of the law. Yes.
Selective application of the law. We are saying.
Leave the microphone.
We are saying that now Chitutu has been sent to Ruzira,
Yes.
which has been long overdue. Her brother has been sent to Ruzira. Now the crime they say her brother committed, that he was found with stolen properties, stolen goods. In this case, iron sheets. Kashiza confessed that even up to now in his own compound there are iron sheets stolen. Speaker of Parliament, the Speaker of Parliament, on floor of Parliament, I think you.
But you're reiterating facts that everyone knows.
No, but
what is the matter?
Retaining stolen goods.
Nichenda nanyo mpobwire nshobora abanyayuganda nomanya ningira hariho ekintu kiruho ekintu kiruho ekyokuteekateeka ngo buri member wa parliament n'umushuma ngaha ebyo kuza kukwata ngo mushomo kwatwara mugongo ngo byomo wena naba yabo yatwara ngaha abantu abatwira amabati omuntu wagagabire hariho. That was Chitutu's docket, and she has been brought to book. Who distributed the iron sheets? Was she not the one? Because when you write seeking for iron sheets and they come to you, you don't know where they come from. Those others returned the iron sheets. The speaker did, Nandutu did, and I think many others returned the iron sheets. But also to say, the judiciary,
Honorable, this is not a one-off.
Chitutu
This sounds to me like it's a one-off.
asking specifically for iron sheets.
Yes.
Chitutu was aligned in court the other day. She's on remand. Now what more do you want me to add? Do you want me to take the law in my hands and judge whether she's wrong or right? No, everything tukwe kugenda. Ni wadindi maramuzi konkani nsima government okubasa okureba eborogo y'abanyayuganda twena bakarondora amabati omuntu owagakozise kubininga kagatwara gatashemye kuza bakamukwata.
Okay, let me get
nini tinka ashara mushango ahabuko batindu maramuzi.
Okay, let's get the feedback. I'll get back to you on our Crooze TV. Victor Junior, I see you. Clovens Katsabe, thank you so much. Karamara Ivan, we see Cosma Afasha, Arinito Evans, you're listening again, you're watching from Poland. Then Baraka Isingoma, you said we cannot stop corruption while President Museveni is encouraging them not to be arrested. And in order for the thieves to invest in their country, there's a time the president said, be slow on these thieves, you scare them and they take the money to another jurisdiction. And then Ezekiel Ruhinda, you're talking people and on their own, as MPs are getting salaries, big salaries and allowances. That feedback we've gotten. Then Loy, I see you're listening again from Ivanda. Adinito Evans, you're saying on the issue of health, the government has always promised to finance VHTs. Who are the grassroots level to sensitize the citizens? How about the preventive measures? Are in vain. Kazoba, I see you. You're listening again. Tony Bogere, you're listening again from Ivanda. And you're telling Honorable Rita to answer the questions, not to dodge them. I think she has gotten that. Let's get, and then Kubakurund Sam, you're watching from Qatar. We appreciate you so much. And a couple of you others that are watching online, we will thank you. On 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. The big set.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is Genius Agavand as usual from Chisorento Town Council. Allow me first to thank FIFA for being there for us. And on the point of this woman MP, Madame Rita, really I wonder, because I remember what was Howard's when he was campaigning during the flag when the flag was taken away, but she doesn't know that my English has a lot of problems like their government. Allow me use my Hati, ninyenda kugambira jogo mchara Rita Vaika with a due respect. Nkabani mwina mama siku mingi obuyabire naronda karuru nebendera bajumuyihireho omuntu yabe nahurira ebigambo bye nanahurira ebigambo bye hati nicyo kyokurebera ngu ekintu kyaba kiri kibi nibakozesa bad kukidefininga kyayeyongeraho kiba wasi kyarengera kimwe kiba wasi mwena amatego gagafire kino kigadefininga ngu kigar bad gar wasi hata ejo niyo gavumenti yanyu Rita onkaito tukitiriza mukore tumarakore tuza kubanya kumbazi okaranga kari tutekateka karaba ngo kubonabona kwitwarenga harare tumarabyo nkugu yaretire Paulo arikuza Damasco ahiganisa abantu bukamuyahamba rasu bukamutera hansi kuyagire kurgaho akarga har Paulo ngwino mugomo marabyo gundu kushaba
on Twitter at Banyaji and at Crooze FM, Mumza Richard, you're saying it won't come true until they get everyone who was involved in the scandalous situation. Everyone is talking. You see, Honorable Rita, Ugandans follow.
No, I think we'll give you an opportunity to
yes.
do something specifically on the issue of iron sheets.
Yes.
First of all, I'm very happy that the last time we were here talking about the same, people were saying that that is when President Museveni had addressed Parliament, I think at Kololo. People were saying they were disappointed in him. He did not talk about iron sheets. And I told them that a country is not run like a family or talk of a farm somewhere. Because I told you that the country is not going to come to a halt because of the issue of Karamoja iron sheets. I told you it's a process and investigations are ongoing. And I'm so happy that something has come out. But like someone said there, we are not going to see this come to an end until majority of the culprits, if found guilty, are dealt with. You see the problem, like we have always said, the biggest challenge in this country is corruption. And the major reason for that is impunity. Because people think that much while they are still in office, they cannot be prosecuted and all that. But this time around, I think she has even gone down in 2 books for being one of the first ministers to be, taken to courts of law.
There are a couple of them that have been taken before courts of law.
I said she's one of.
Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean she's the only one. So for me, that is quite good, and it is giving hope to Ugandans. I think you heard the callers. But I want to tell you that all this, Honorable Rita said it was Parliament that came out with the issue. Yes, I think it did. But I want to thank the public, Banyaji, for the noise we made about the same. People are very, very disappointed, and they were saying this time around the president is being put on task, and it was a test for him to see how far this goes. But I'm so happy that this person is behind bars, and I think those people investigating are very competent enough that will come out with enough evidence and will come out with all the culprits to be charged and dealt with. Because Banyaji, Ugandans are very, we are talking of budgets here, and you're spending all that money on iron sheets to be distributed to people of Karamoja, and someone is stealing them. That is quite sad. But allow me to say that the issue of transparency and accountability is generally incumbent upon parliamentarians. So you gave an example of a parish development model slightly. People had hope in this, and they were saying this time round poverty is going to be eradicated. But look at what is happening. Already a very big percentage of money has been stolen by some of these people. So I want to see these people debate issues that are of national importance. Poverty eradication and all that. I gave you an example of budgets and expenditure by Ugandans. Healthcare systems, education, name it. As we speak, Ugandans are just between the rock and a hard place. That's what they say. Because the president comes out and says there is no paying of, UPE, there is UPE, free education for primary and secondary. But children are being sent back home by schools because they want this money. And somehow, unaona oversased because abana betaga ABC. So the question here is, how much money is given to these schools by government? As is it called school facilitation grant? So these are the things we expect our parliamentarians to be talking about. Talk of increasing this money that is given to schools for pupils and all that. So we are saying abantu babatuma babine expectations, and there are roles you play as parliamentarians, but there are certain things that you should include in even before. Even when they're not part of your roles as parliamentarians. For example, debating the issue of UPE. Now what should we do? People should listen to the president or just do what? So for me, Abanya-Uganda batumba parliamentarians bamangu nimwe marakagabo, but majority of the time they have been disappointed.
On iron sheets, Mr. Banyaji, there is this argument, the narrative from these people that store iron sheets. Some of them are members of parliament, other ministers. They are saying that for them they wrote requesting for iron sheets and they were given. That's their argument. But we are saying they were writing to a minister, Chitutu Goreti, the one who was distributing iron sheets, is a minister in charge of Karamoja affairs. You don't come from Karamoja, you don't represent the people of Karamoja, you get a pen and
they wrote to the office of the Prime Minister, and the Minister of Karamoja falls under the office of the Prime Minister.
To represent them, but I am saying, for them, they wrote to the minister. How could a person from Kabare, for example, Ndogwa West or something, write to Minister of Karamoja affairs, requesting for support, requesting for iron sheets, well knowing that person doesn't represent the people of Karamoja? Because the Minister of Karamoja deals with issues of Karamoja.
Thank you,
from Barasite, you are writing to the Minister of Karamoja to give you iron sheets. That means there was malice forethought. You knew that we are redundant iron sheets, and you wrote knowing that you would get, because you thought that maybe Karamojongs don't deserve iron sheets.
Okay, thank you.
Whoever got those iron sheets should be. I didn't know that she got, and I am calling upon police to come and investigate her. By the way, she should be arrested.
No. Okay, Honorable, you have the floor.
Bueno, nechena kwa bampurikize okushanga omuntu wayesimbire ngondo bwa member wa parliament ukaza radio kabi niwe ninyisima government abo kugira ngo mbara secondary kuyahire nahandikira prime minister kandi bampa amabati kandi amabati agubampire nago kukozesa abanyarwanda kandi ninyenda kubamanyisa ngo abantu bona abakuterwa umuyaga uba health center yawe yagenda ubumwe nangwa bani rwariro bani shomero member wa parliament wawe inobugabe ukuhandika kandi akaraba umuhando gukire akabona amabati mwini bright kuwaba
writing no
bright you made your submission. You made your submission. Bright, your microphone is off.
Amarara abundu kuhereza nebaho mushoro kandi bine obugabe obukozesa sente za government
But not
just keep quiet.
ebintu bya nupu obyokurira kimwe kiri yero kendo chindre ready ebyo tubiri kuza kukora hari nyowe ninsima government na wantaha kizimbe kikusinga yo buhango mu Uganda buringwa ninkigamba ngwama bati kagabona kandi kagabona umburyo bushikirekanye na kigamba aha
on the matter of PDM
ninjagaruka ngabone gabaho nashabo mbahandike bagampe nco takandebera harist.
Okay.
Aha issue ya PDM tukajidebatinga orwa kabiri ruhwire tukutekayo ebitenso nk'abanyambarira site nk'aba abashemba nk'abanyayuganda bona ebintu ebyazwirwe omu kukora oversight yo murumo oba omukuba bakarebi ba government aha PDM okubasa kureba ebigenzireje nibiha kandi bitari kugenda je nibiha ebigenzireje bimwe bikaba birumu ngwe myanya emwe esente kaba yazirebere
which places
I cannot give a critical example unless I come to Mbarara City.
Yes, I want to
apart from six wards just kazi rimu Rwenjeru harimu Ruchindo haka harimu Rwemigira nezimwe nche zabizitaka bwine sentezo ezindi zona esente zikazagire konka office ya town clerk ekechi numurimo gwa bene maririza okubase sentezo hati kuzita account z'abantu ekihango munonga na president obwaija kororo akagamba ngu report eyitwa akozere nk'abanyishengero akagishoma ahabwo kuba esente zimwe omumyanya emwe hakaba harimo ebizibu byo kugira ngo nibenda bigure accounts omumazina gabantu baburijo babintu babatera sente kandi sente shimekuzo mu account z'amazina gasako yomuruka hakaba niho sente zakora ki zaza echa kabiri hakaba ari mushongera kugamba habihandiko bya sente za PDM kubuko babiri yo mu rujungu kandi abantu abo PDM eri kugenderera kuyamba no kimanya naboro abakushembayo ahansi abinji abatari kumanya kushoma no kuhandika so kiri kwetagisa ngu ebipapuro ebyo babitapite babiteko mu runyankore obo mu rurimi orw'abantu bekicweka mu nshonda za Uganda zona izibari kucenga echa kandi PDM senteji no shango muntu aine famu obundo shango muntu no murisa wembuzi ruranganwa obundo no murisa wo mwana rurangana nawe yabire natekateka munaija kubona sento za PDM so misconception no ya government programs nereto muhondano esente za PDM abantu abino kuzibona nabo abakuteberezebwa ngubo tubari mu ngere yo kushubura tubari mu ngeri eye kubasa kubaretera intasya yona konka hato shanga unabamwa bino business ziri kutambura nawe teka ine mamasiko ngo nawe bamuha sente za PDM
the breaks of this one
kandogo ariya heru yezo sente government yareta program bwiro bwinji nebe ine ekigendererwa konka hatu byo mubona mu Uganda nagira ngo PDM ikaberiye yeyi nanda agizemu konko mu kuji tahamagyezago ticho kitekateko abantu abatari mu cycle abatari mu ntambuza yesente abakirya heru yazo niho PDM eri kwende yambe babase kugira aka business kuba atandikaho ubundi kuya kubananda kuhinga bicyora kabiguza kagire kihamu nibeshemerire kuba ne targeting ekinde kitwashanje bagira mi conclude with this.
Yes,
hakaba harimo controversy ngo okwebembera sako ya PDM muteko kuboshomireho hata abantu abaye barya bebembezi abo PDM ikabata oyo bebembezi wasako konkiyoto ino buvunanizibwa bokubasa kukwata sentezo so hariho kikwebuza no basota kuzirebera kandi nekindi nko muri Mbarara City no kimanya ngo merkeji yo neyituine abiri no mushoba yona teine offices hati chiba difficult munanye MP kwawe banoronda parish chief umushange nkai so hakirimu ebyo kutereza konka burijo tokubasa kwemereza pa oti government emurimo byo kutambira tubanze tutereza ko tutereza tkoyo we can align, we can re-strategize, we can reprogram as the implementation goes on.
Okay, thank you. Any information if I bring in Edgar?
I only want to inform her that she has confirmed my allegation that there is a vote of no confidence in Parliament. Because PDM, before it was rolled out, it passed through Parliament. These are the issues our representatives should have looked at in the beginning. But now she's raising issues as if she has seen the document for the first time. So why didn't she raise these issues before they could allocate money to PDM? Because all these are pertinent issues she has raised, which should have been looked at the time of rolling it out. But now they accepted that the program should start benefiting Ugandans, yet there were issues, as she has said. It means,
but when government appreciates these particular bottlenecks and says this is a new program,
it means
we are rolling it out in bits as we understand how it will work out and address the bottleneck. What's wrong with it?
This means
now you see,
we are using a development approach which is from top to bottom, which I don't agree with, because we should concentrate.
Unoguruka ubwo mwanya n'umwana nogirenda ugira amezi mwenda uzarwa utambura ukikakuba nkarita ukikakuba nka Edgar ubaka safto uko keshango ryote. So government programs, when they are developing, they are interlinked from one system to another, and you must bear it. It is not very easy to say that you are targeting the very poor to include in a money economy, in a development process. There is lots of sensitization to take place.
But a person will ask you, this is not
the population is not homogeneous.
Yes.
That you are going to say all people of that category are the same, like a white sheet on the same page. That is where you will find, for government programs, whether it is Myoga, whether it is Women Entrepreneurship Fund, you have those who succeed, you have those who fail. For instance, in Barra City, in Myoga, we have one of the best two groups that have performed well in this country. They even got a prize. Somebody doesn't want to hear that, only wants to hear the failures. But in every program you decide, there will be those who will succeed very well, there will be those who will eat the money and you can deal with them in another way, but you cannot totally disregard those whose lives have changed.
Okay,
and that is what will also happen with PDM.
Yes, yes. Edgar, let me allow.
So for Bright Okuba, when you manya hariho prophets of doom, yes, who are always looking for the bad, that MPs did not debate, did not debate parish model, but development works with how people behave.
Honorable, let's allow the gentleman. Let's allow Edgar.
Yes, thanks so much. I think so much, moderator. So I think that really, as usual, this show is somehow tends to be political because of Bright.
Yeah, well, but it's a political show.
Yeah, of course. But maybe
Bright wants to remove the gate of State House to enter, but unfortunately, the people are still very strong and they know he's telling lies. That won't happen soon.
Okay,
you can only thrive on propaganda.
Let's allow the gentleman.
Just to clarify, I think it's honorable, but maybe somehow she answered that question on the issue of why now and why he's saying these things. I don't think it's now. It was a matter of priority concerning the time factor. For instance, now, if they were to do all those things, to have the parish officers and chiefs get offices, you can imagine how many years we would be. And all those years will be declining more in poverty. So I think it's more of that issue. But secondly, I think all this problem of service delivery has narrowed down to also corruption. And I think it's very important that listeners out there do understand that corruption is not just a problem that you do solve. And this is where also somehow fault the government. They just create some sort of policing, like this is an anti-corruption unit. You don't fight corruption by just creating somebody and you think you're going to get Edgar and then you destroy corruption. It's more of like I said, a habit that has to start with individuals. For instance, just an example I can give you is that there are countries, especially the Scandinavian countries, where people will not even deal with you in terms of business if you're corrupt. The idea that I will not accept your money because I don't get its sources very well, right? It's just people. Not because there's some police, not because there's some watchdog, there's some guy who's going to come and grab me. That's how corruption is fought. You don't create it by anti-corruption units and very many things. But beyond that, so there's also a question of then how different they're going to be. I think which was going to be asked by I think which was asked to Honorable Bright here. Honorable Bright here, knows it. And even him, someone wouldn't be very different. In fact, don't be different at all in that system. And he knows it.
Okay.
Definitely.
And lastly,
and your parting shot in closing.
My parting shot is that every Ugandan out there should understand that when you see the government sending troops to Congo and all that, it's also a wastage of money, as Bright here thinks. it does convince our people who don't understand how society develops. Yes, regional peace. Because you don't just sit here, as small as your country is. We explained this concept last time, that Uganda is a very small country, never landlocked. So it's not strategic politically, but also in terms of defense, to sit down and wait for the enemies to first reach Kampala. And then and then as parliament you decide and say, so now I think we can authorize the troops.
But they sometimes they're up in arms with His Excellency the President on not first seeking permission of Parliament on deployment of some of these troops.
But no, but it's also a constitutional requirement that the President has the privileges to act, especially in those instances,
as a fountain of honor.
Yes, and let alone formulate.
Okay, thank you. Let me bring in Sifa.
You cannot just use one article of a law without looking at cutting across what do other articles say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sifa, your parting shot and your remark.
Before that, now that we talked about the issue of informing Parliament with PDF before deploying, people should know that they can only inform Parliament when they are deploying for a mission, not for operations, like the case is with Congo. So for me, Banyaji, I want to tell Ugandans that are listening in and viewing that this PDM thing is not a silver bullet to fighting poverty. Mukwere bindi mwamira ko mukubasa gukora mukakora mereka kugira ngo entire nkanda kigambira aha ngo PDM niye kwiza kumara hubwo. That's not true. But I want to take as she concludes, maybe she's going to tell us, because usually Honorable Rita ndo bakwata abantu bibire sente z'abantu in these corruption scandals. What happens 2 days omuchome uzakura ngo agarukira mu office. So it's like a joke bali ngaba kumokinga Ugandans. Kwere wiba you can go, you have a lot of educated and competent people who can take up these offices. So that's why people are saying nabibireza PDM already bamwe bali heru nubatambara kandi we have evidence ngo bakaziba. So as long as we still play around with people stealing and patting them on the shoulders and all that, abanya Uganda bakwijagaruka mu masoko kugira ngo we are taking them on. But finally Banyaji,
yes, in a second.
I want to wish my friends and Ugandans
yes,
actually and Africans and the entire world happy Easter. I think that is tomorrow. Wish you all the best.
Okay,
and we are also
you.
fasting. I want to congratulate my fellow Muslims. So far we are, I think, halfway the Holy Mass of Ramadan. But like I said last Saturday, those who break up the matches for people to break their fast, that is very important and impressive.
Okay, but in a second your parting shot. Please, our time is fast spent.
Omuntu yabajwe sate cyekire nempare cyekire definitely pant neba yawe iriho kare. So for this case,
yes,
abantu ba movement abareme kutuhereza the minimum, just accessing a free cup of water to drink for any human being to drink, because now for you to be able to get water in this town you must buy it. I am only saying that government cannot tell us to us that they want to give us direct money. Their mission for parish development model is to create a fund, which fund they are going to use to fight opposition.
Okay, thank you. I think your point is gotten. Thank you. Our time is fast spent. No. Our time is fast spent. Honorable Rita, your parting shot.
Is to thank the...
But perhaps we should... I have Nsimire Godwin,
yes,
who is listening in from Ginger and watching from Ginger. And he's really appreciating the show and your contribution.
Thank you very much.
No. Our time is fast spent. I have you every day here. No, please. Please, our time is spent. No, you're not going to speak. No, sir, no, with respect. You're wasting my time.
But now, why don't you give me an...
I am saying no.
Why? You must justify your no. Because I was invited here. Didn't you invite me?
Your microphone is off. Your time is fast spent. Let me allow Honorable Rita.
Did I invite myself here?
Oh, okay, I've said you are not going to speak.
No, but I am saying justify your point. Tell me why. Because I was invited to speak. I was invited to speak.
Shame on you.
No, it is shame on you also, because now I was invited here to speak. You are saying that I should not speak. You are giving a lot of time to Honorable Rita.
Honorable Rita is a guest who comes once in a year.
Even if I came daily, I'm entitled to time allocated.
Yes,
actually.
please, your parting shot.
Yeah, to you, dear listeners, I would like to thank you for your contributions, but also to say that Uganda is ours, and it is your role and myself to be able to make it a better place. Corruption is bad. We cannot in any way understate that, and that whoever is caught, whoever is discovered to misuse public resources should be held accountable, and in this case the process is going on. I do uphold them. I also would like to say that the government of Uganda, the NRM, is still in charge and providing for service delivery. The health facilities, I do urge you, when you need, please walk to your nearest health facility, please walk to your nearest hospital. You will be able to be helped. There are challenges that we cannot totally eradicate. For instance, poverty. Poverty is like a lifetime disease all over the world. It's not only Uganda, but we cannot ever see our government stop. It is our role as leaders, as a member of parliament, to make sure that even those who are not reached, we work with government to design programs that can be able to serve these people. Parish development model. Many times people who speak against government programs don't need them. And for you who is out there wondering where else would you get help, please embrace government programs, embrace the WEP, embrace the youth livelihood, embrace Myoga, embrace PDM. Do not shy away. Those who make noise, right here is a businessman. He does not need PDM. So when he confuses you that it does not exist on the ground, that is a sheer mention. Please, when you see people are mobilizing, register yourself. Do not give up on government programs. Government uses your taxes. Finally, I want to thank the people of Mbara City. As I always say, I cannot do this without you. And I thank you for joining in the forces to raise your voices against the saga for iron sheets, and together we have been able to do that. When the minister, let me give Bright a privilege. Yes. When Katumba, the minister for works, was here during Tarehe Sita, he addressed the people who are available. Unfortunately, Bright was hiding as usual. That the bridge, we are at a stage where assessment was done. The engineers have visited, so we are waiting for government to allocate resources so that bridge can be worked on. But I do thank you, Hore, and most especially to Banyaji and Crooze for hosting me. But also remember, government is a chain. The councillors you elect, the mayors you elect, equally have a duty and service to perform. I thank you, and I wish you a happy Easter. For my brothers and sisters, the Muslims, a happy and blessed Ramadan.
Thank you, Honorable Rita. Thank you, Edgar Mtunsa. Thank you, Bright Muhammad. Thank you, Sifa Safi. My name is West Banyaji. Let's meet next Saturday on the Big C. Good morning.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of this radio station or its management.
This radio is regulated by Uganda Communications Commission, UCC.
This is Saturday Night Live.